Good morning. Welcome to Let's Get Growing. We're up in the garden today. Uh, we're going to do these over the summer. We're going to do some plant profiles and look at a few different things in the garden, maybe a group of plants at a time, whatever sort of looking good uh, in the moment. Today we are sort of mid-June. The garden's really starting to fill in with perennials now. We've got some warmer weather, really makes them grow really fast. And we're going to look at basically one of my favorite small trees for the garden. And I'm going to back up out of the way a little bit. The tree is the pagoda dogwood, or Cornus alternifolia. Cornus alternifolia is a large shrub to a small tree. It is native all over southern Ontario. I've seen them. I can go across the street and find these here. I could go up to Algonquin Park, find them growing up there. They're a beautiful native tree. I think one of our best ones, especially for smaller gardens, because they top out at about 15 feet tall, maybe not even that tall. They're very, very shade tolerant. When you see them growing in the wild, they're actually growing sort of along the edges of forests. So they kind of peek out from underneath the big trees and sort of fill in that mid-height layer. You know, they're a good, when you're talking about layering a garden, they're a great sort of shrub, small tree layer. You know, you've got your bigger trees, they might be in neighbors' yards or whatever. They cast some shade in. You've got your mid-heights, then you go down to your perennial layers and your ground cover layers. They're called pagoda dogwood because they have an interesting growth habit. You can really probably see it in this, with this specimen, is that the branches are layered. They all tend to come off the trunk in one area and then form a layer. Now, we can accentuate that by pruning, and we will do that, so we get this definite boom, boom, boom layering, because that's part of one of the things that make them look so cool. Again, I mentioned it's in the shade. We're under a very large basswood tree. This gets morning sun right now, a bit of dappled shade through the day, and then, almost just dappled shade now in the late afternoon, doing extremely well. We have others in the garden that are out in full sun, and they're doing very well as well. They have a bit tighter growth habit in the sun. You can see this is a very open, relaxed habit in the sun. The branching is much tighter, and the growth habit is much tighter. They're in full bloom right now. Now, on this one here, this is the cultivar Golden Shadows, which is a magnificent version of it. Beautiful green-centered gold leaves. Lights up this shady corner of the garden all season long. It's fantastic. You don't see it a lot in the trade, unfortunately. It is in the Proven Winter line of shrubs. It was one of their first introductions. So Cornus alternifolia Golden Shadows is to look for. But even if you find just the straight species, and you'll find it at nurseries, at native plant nurseries and things like that for sure. Wonderful tiering and lots of bloom at this time of the year. Now, the beauty of it is if you like birds, cedar waxwings, things like that, this is one of the best small trees you can get for attracting birds to your garden once the fruit become ripe later in the summer. All these flowers become big clusters of reddish purple fruits, and the birds go crazy for them. They'll even come to the tree, a week or two before they're ripe, and keep an eye on it until they're ripe. Unfortunately, the chipmunks like it too. So the chipmunks, tend to steal some of the seed, but these will bring birds to your garden, guaranteed. Um, if you watch British garden shows and things like that, you'll see a plant that they call the wedding cake tree. That's Cornus controversa, and it's a similar plant to this one. This one is much hardier. The Cornus controversa is not as hardy, but it does the same thing, the same tiered growth habit. So, watch for these. If you need a small tree that's got some shade tolerance, and you don't want it too big, but you need some height, Cornus alternifolia, pagoda dogwood. I don't think you can beat it. It's an awesome tree. Underplanting it, we have a few different plants here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about them briefly and a little bit about the layers that are happening here. So as we move down to the perennial layer, in this area, we have one of my favorite shade plants. This is Saruma henryi, and I think we talked about him a few weeks ago when he was just coming up. But this is what Saruma henryi does. A month ago, it was 4 inches tall and blooming. Now, it's 1.5 feet tall, and it's still blooming. Exceptionally long bloom period in the in spring. These cute little yellow flowers that are produced continuously, even probably for a couple of more weeks. And then the seed pods are forming lots of seed. So it's Saruma henryi, or upright wild ginger is the common name, because it has the look of our wild ginger, but not in a ground covering habit, in a clump forming habit. So it's a great plant for the shade. Surrounding it, we have a heuchera that is great for any shade garden. You know, we have gone through a lot of different heucheras over the years, but some of the more basic ones are the ones that last longer for us. The beautifully colored ones don't last long for us. This is Heuchera villosa, and Heuchera villosa, it's an important species to know, because the colorful ones that do better in southern Ontario in general have Heuchera villosa in the parentage. It's an exceptionally good heuchera. You can get it in a purple leaf form. This is the green leaf form that gets white flowers in the fall, often called autumn bride. And it's a wonderful edger, semi-ground cover plant for the shade. Hostas, of course, love doing their thing in here. I don't know if you can see that nice blue one, Laura, at the front there. But also mixed into this group, and the plants that I don't think people give enough credit to are the ferns. Ferns are a fantastic plant to put in shady areas to break up all this big, bold foliage that you get from hostas and things like this in the shade garden. Be aware, you know, most people get a fern, they get given a clump of ostrich fern. It can be very aggressive and spreading, and I think that turns people off ferns. For us, in our drier shade even, we look to the Dryopteris, which are the male ferns, and we look to the Atheriums, which are lady ferns or Japanese painted ferns. They do exceptionally well for us. They're long-lived. They're not aggressively spreading. Many of them have a fair bit of winter interest because they don't all drop their foliage as soon as the fall hits. That's true of some of the Dryopteris. So look for those male ferns and lady ferns to round out your shady areas. And then I'm going to move up a little bit, because one plant that, you know, we really have a love-hate relationship with is this guy here. This is Geranium phaeum, sometimes called the mourning widow. If you have dry shade, it's an exceptionally good plant for dry shade. Saying that, it is also loved by pollinators to an extent that you could never even imagine. As I'm sitting here, there are bees and things coming to every flower. And it's a beautiful geranium. But if you're going to grow geranium phaeum in the garden, you have to be diligent. Once they get to a point where the seed is starting to ripen, you can see the seed pod here, still bright green, still got some flowers here, you're okay. When you see the seed pods down here starting to ripen, you have to deadhead geranium phaeum. It is so popular with the pollinators, it has actually covered our shade garden with plants. Now, some of them, the colors are right from black right through to royal blues, to burgundies. There's an amazing color range of plants, but it can overwhelm the garden. So be careful of that. There are some beautiful leaf forms as well. You can see this one here, just as an example, has really great purple blotching on the leaf. So in some cases that can cover the leaf. You can get variegated forms of these. There's lots of them out there, but just keep an eye. Geranium phaeum, great plant for shade. Even better plant if you deadhead your garden well. But otherwise, I would grow it. It's gotten away on us a little bit, so we're sort of, culling it out for other plants to go in their place. But it is a beautiful plant. Just keep that little warning in mind. I think that sort of wraps up. Oh, I'm just going to mention quickly, sort of, this layer is at this stage now. If we looked at this layer a month ago, we would have seen epimediums. They're hiding underneath here. And we would have seen, where did I have one? Here they are right here. I'll just pull one up. Hiding underneath there, doing its thing for next year, is the Virginia bluebells. So that layer is disappearing underneath this layer, which is sort of the summer layer, but is still there doing its thing. We even have little violets, you get those little blue violets and you think, oh, curse those little blue violets. They cover underneath these plants. And in that situation, they're great. If they get in places you don't want them, fine. But don't worry about them when they're mingling underneath your hostas. They'll just stay there for the summer and then be back with some bright blue color next spring and not bothering anybody. And things like the Virginia bluebells and other bulbs are doing exactly that same thing. So keep in mind that layer. That layer is there. It's going to disappear to a large extent while this one takes it over for the summer. And that's how you build up a lot of interest for a long period of time in a small area in the shade. We got any questions for today, Laura? No questions. Everybody must be out in the garden. All right. We'll wrap it up there. Thanks for watching. Please remember, Facebook does not store these videos for long anymore. So go to our YouTube channel. Let's get growing Mason House Gardens. Please subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything, but it's a benefit for us. So watch archived videos on YouTube. And thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week.